Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
This story is sent to me by a whole bunch of people, but also just a weird confluence of things that came together, including the fact that this shirt actually kind of applies to the topic at hand, which never happens. The shirts are random. People ask me about that. Shirts are random. I've got behind the camera about 150 shirts on two racks, and I grab a shirt off the right end and I wear it, and then I put it on the left end, and it works its way back through again. That's how the shirt rotation works, and this is just a coincidence. It almost never happens. So here we go. Headline, new Ford technology pushes the limits of driver privacy and surveillance. The leader in cop cars is going full Minority Report. James Ochoa wrote this for TheHill.com. If there's any depiction of a dystopian future, it should be treated as a warning. There'd be nothing better than the sci-fi film Minority Report, which of course came out more than 20 years ago now. In that film, Tom Cruise heads a special Washington, D.C. area police force in the future where humans with the ability to envision the future help apprehend suspected killers before they commit their crimes. Of course, that's science fiction and it's goofy, but surveillance by the government is very real. A great example is demonstrated across the 5 boroughs of the city of New York, where over 18,000 closed-circuit television cameras record and collect data to assist the police department do its job. We've also talked about these cameras being deployed in other cities across America. And in Michigan, I even did a story about an intersection in a town where the town is constructed in such a way that the vast majority of people who pass through town go through this one intersection. So let's put up cameras there and watch everything that goes through that intersection. And I've had people say, Steve, why do you have a problem with that? And I always say, well, you know, on some level I don't. I'm more concerned about what it will become. Because don't forget that once something starts, it can always expand. And so if there's a high crime area and you put up cameras to help fight that crime, I get it. But they say, well, we have an intersection that a lot of people go through, so let's just start, recording every car that goes through, make, model, driver's license information, whatever we can pull off the cars that goes by. I know the driver's license information we pulled off the license plate, which may or may not correlate with the driver, but that's another story altogether. However, Ford Motor Company, has filed a new patent with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and it is about something they want to do with the police. The police may soon benefit from another tool in its vast technological arsenal that may help enforce the kind of crime that is all too prevalent. According to a filing just a couple weeks ago, Ford has developed technology, which they patented, to help the police enforce speeding laws. Driving infractions involving speeding. The patent is titled Systems and Methods for Detecting Speeding Violations. Ford's system would use the onboard sensors in your car, assuming you bought one of these cars, to detect other vehicles on the road that are actively breaking the speed limit. In practice, Ford vehicles equipped with the systems could turn on cameras to capture the offending car. The Ford's computer would then send pictures of the offending car and its location using GPS data straight to the authorities. So now your car is narking out other drivers. The first question I had when I read this is, will it narc you out? What if you're speeding? Are you telling me that you can be speeding one of these cars and it won't tell the police? Oh, no, it won't report on you. It would never do that. It'll only report on strangers. With this information, the police could make the choice about whether they want to pursue this or not. Though this technology remains solely as a patent, police departments and local law enforcement agencies already use many questionable methods to enforce driving infractions, such as speed cameras, high occupancy vehicle lane cameras, and red light cameras. Ford is already the leader in police cars, with over half of them on American streets bearing the famous blue oval. So the new Ford tech calls into question the kind of tech that is capturing our data and likenesses and reopens a can of worms that had the attention of politicians in Washington. That is connected car data. Although the patented technology uses the data it collects from its cameras and sensors for functions that operate inside the car, the data can also be used outside the car, and it can be a wildly different story in today's connected car reality. And so I did this story not so long ago about the concept of delivery trucks, such as FedEx, having cameras on them and making what they record with their cameras available to the police. And I said I was against that. And I talked about it in the video about why I was against it. But I had somebody send me a note and say, Steve, you need to drive better if you're scared of a FedEx camera. And I said, who mentioned driving? I don't think I've mentioned driving. I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, you're scared that the FedEx camera is going to catch you breaking the law in traffic. I said, no. In fact, I specifically said something different. I said, I don't like the idea of a FedEx truck coming up onto my property, filming what's on my property, and then when they leave, if law enforcement goes, hey, we can't get a warrant to go on that guy's property. Can we borrow all your footage that you've shot when you've been there? And suddenly, stuff that I think should be private, that is, on stuff on my property that you cannot see from the street, that bothers me. And so, I had people telling me, they said, Steve, I'm thinking about putting up a sign that says no FedEx trucks. It's that bothersome. And so I'm not worried about a FedEx truck in traffic taking a picture of my car. No, I don't care. What I care about is the fact that suddenly somebody is surveilling my property from on my property, but ostensibly they're there to deliver a package. That's wrong. That is wrong. So there is probably going to need to be legislation on this because we've reached a point in our society now where big corporations are simply looking at all the ways they can make money. How can we monetize things? And somebody realized years ago that our cars record all kinds of fascinating data that would benefit people who might want to buy it, such as insurance companies or advertisers and so on. Next thing you know, they're selling all of our driving habit data. Is that what you signed up for when you bought your car? And so the first problem I have is there needs to be a disclosure to let people know if the car they're driving is creating data for someone else to make money off of. I just need to know that. Please let me know. Okay. Number two, I should have the right to opt out of that. I should have the right to opt out of becoming a de facto auxiliary police officer. Because that's what you're becoming if your car is doing this. Now, you might say, but Steve, I don't understand. How does it hurt you? Well, among other things, it's using my resources that I paid for to do something I'd rather not be doing. And so if Ford is giving the cars away and saying, here, have a car, but by the way, it's going to be recording data, that's fine. They're not going to do that, though. They're going to sell you the car, and then they're going to take the data that you gather with your car, and they're going to sell it and make money doing that. That, to me, is wrong. That, to me, is wrong. So we're going to need some legislation to address some of these issues. And one of them is the sale of data that is either created by us or about us for one purpose being sold to somebody else without our knowledge or without our permission. We should be allowed to opt out of that stuff. You should absolutely be allowed to opt out of somebody taking all the data that's gathered by your smartphone or your car or something. You should be allowed to opt out of that. I understand that right now there's all kinds of apps on my phone that do that. I understand that. I know what most of them are, but the point is that this is just another example. And, if you said, hey, Steve, what do you think about Ford taking the data off of your vehicle and figuring out where you were, where you go, what kinds of things you do, and selling that data to somebody else? That's wrong. I think it's wrong. Okay, I think you should get my permission. I should have the right to opt out of it. And by the way, why would they get to keep the money? They're selling my stuff. I should get the money for that. But number two, stepping it up a notch and saying we're now going to make you a de facto law enforcement officer. I don't agree at all. And besides it, I'd really like to know if the patent contains a provision or if the technology would be there to where the car could also, like I said, narc you out. And it could say, well, right now on I-75 northbound at exit 212, where the cops like to hang out, there are 4 vehicles speeding, one of which is a vehicle being driven by Steve Lehto. And we know what color it is, we know the make and model and all that. Here's the information, officer. Now, the tech on my car probably couldn't photograph my car, but maybe it does, I don't know. But it is looking towards a dystopian future. And that's what James Ochoa called it, but I've also heard other people talking about this, where we are getting closer and closer to a pure surveillance society. And I remember in the old days reading science fiction books and so on, and we all thought, a dystopian future of a surveillance society is where we'll be out in public and there'll be cameras everywhere. And nowadays, you get used to that. You walk into a courthouse, you walk into a bank, you walk into a store. There are cameras everywhere, okay? We kind of got used to that, and I thought, well, gee, we know where most of them are, and most of them make sense, and okay, that's fine. No, now you can drop a ton of money on a brand new vehicle, and it's gathering your data so the manufacturer can sell it to other people. And pretty soon, it might be gathering data for police officers to follow up on because you've become a de facto auxiliary police officer. And I do need to point out one final thing, and of course, several people have already hammered this away in the comments. Good for you, but it's a patent. It is not a technology that's been deployed just yet. So some companies do occasionally patent things they've come up with, and they never bother making them. And they just simply go, well, we came up with an idea, let's patent it and sit on it. But of course, if that was the case, and I worked for Ford Motor Company, I'd find the public relations department real fast and go, guys, we need to get ahead of this thing, and just simply announce that we've got this technology. We believe in being good, civic citizens, and therefore we patented it in case it ever needed to be rolled out in the future. But as of right now, we have no plans to do that. However, the fact that they're not making that announcement now leads me to believe perhaps they are thinking of rolling it out. So there you go. Everybody sent it. Thanks a lot. And like I said, this shirt's just a coincidence. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. I'd advise no one look directly at me.